My name is Deb, and I'm a pediatrician, which is kind of funny because I actually don't like children all that much. I was going to be an ER doc. I love the idea of fixing people who were bleeding and who were broken. But when I was a medical student at OU, actually, I fell in love with kids in foster care, and I learned that there was more than one way to be broken, that not all wounds are visible. 2 decades ago, I stood in the home of a mom with untreated schizophrenia, a home that hadn't seen electricity or running water or regular food in the fridge for a long time. And I wondered what would happen to her 6 children if they stayed there, but I also wondered what would happen if they didn't. I walked through a shelter for children who had been placed in foster care because their own homes weren't safe, only to find themselves in a situation that met their basic physical needs, but didn't even enter the universe of meeting their emotional ones. I sat in the back of a courtroom during a hearing where judges and caseworkers and police officers and attorneys from systems that were meant to protect children struggled to answer basic questions about where the children were and how they were doing. I saw firsthand the destruction of child maltreatment, and once I did, I just didn't sleep as well as I had before. So I started trying to help. I didn't know exactly what to do about it. After all, I'm a pediatrician, and maybe a little bit unwilling one at that, since I didn't like children very much. Not a policymaker, but I do have some strengths, and I figured I could leverage those. I'm good at asking questions and learning from stories. I love the stories that are being told here today. I hope you guys are enjoying that. My patients have taught me about the negative impact of trauma and adversity, but I've also learned lessons from kids and adults who were incredibly resilient and who gave me hope that others could be resilient too. Once I met a 6-year-old, I'll never forget this kid. I asked him how he wound up coming to the shelter. He said his mom drank a lot, and she used drugs. She spent most of the nights out kind of running around and most of her days passed out. He was used to taking care of his siblings who were 2 and 3. He was quite proud of his ability to cook macaroni and cheese in the microwave, toast in the toaster, and to change diapers. That'll come in handy someday when he gets married. One day, though, his mom was cranky, and when he stepped in to protect his siblings from her anger, she pushed him out the front door and locked the door, so that he couldn't come back in the house. He lifted his chin, he set his jaw, and he looked me straight in the eyes when he was telling me this story. He said, "We deserve better." He told me that he'd marched down a block down the road to the local fire station, and he had told the firemen there the same thing. We deserve better than this. I learned about resilience, not just trauma, but resilience, from a little 6-year-old boy, from moms who shook off depression and dads who broke through drug addiction, and thousands of other kids and families and caseworkers and foster parents who trusted me with their stories. That $100,000 medical degree came in handy in some other ways too. It got me invited into a lot of boardrooms, and as long as I didn't act like a jerk when I got there, I got to stay. I wound up with a lot of opportunities to serve in community and government leadership. That's how I wound up at the Department of Human Services, where I serve now. And I get to serve as the Deputy Director for Child Welfare and have the opportunity to influence a whole system around how do we serve children and families in better ways. Some people say that patience is a strength, a virtue, but I'm calling BS on that. Injustice isn't patient. It doesn't sleep. Families who are struggling don't have time for patience. Children who are in harm's way sure don't have time for patience. Neither do those children who aren't going home, those who need a new family. I believe one of my greatest strengths is that I'm actually not very patient. Instead, I'm pretty stubborn. Now, that's what my mom calls it. My grandma always just said we're strong-willed, that we're determined people, resolute. Whatever you want to call it, I believe stubbornness is a virtue. That locking eyes with something that moves the deepest part of you, that keeps you awake at night, that thing deserves your full attention. Not for a day or for a season, but for a lifetime. Stubbornness helped child advocates persist in bringing a lawsuit against our state and many states, an advocacy for children who were involved in those child welfare systems. And 6 years into Oklahoma's child welfare reform journey, stubbornness got my friends and I in child welfare to the place where we're one of only a few states in which the trend is now to figure out how to help children in their own homes rather than removing them into foster care. And if the state does have to step in, Oklahoma has a growing number of foster homes, so that the likelihood of matching a child with a home that can meet their needs is greater. Stubbornness did that. Advocates and leaders with strong backs and stiff necks who refuse to allow children to be unsafe, but who also refuse to give up on helping their birth families, who believe that when a child can't go home, there's always the opportunity to create a new family, whether temporary or permanent. The work is not done. It's far from done. Many families face overwhelming adversity. The toll of substance abuse, domestic violence, untreated mental illness, and a lack of even basic resources are social challenges that would be difficult to solve even if our systems worked at 100% efficiency and effectiveness. And believe me, they don't. I'd like to think that that courtroom scene couldn't happen these days, 20 years later, or that moms with schizophrenia could get help, more help than they did back in those days, or that somehow we value well-being as much as we do physical safety, but I'd be wrong if I tried to tell you that. That said, I'm confident in the resolve of the people who are leading and doing this work, and I believe that our stubbornness will shape a more resilient future for Oklahoma's children.